Reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Hello and welcome to the last ever edition of the Afternoon Agenda with me, Alex Phillips. Don't worry, I'm back with a brand new show for the new year, but for today, this show isn't news as you know it, but opinion, discussion and debate on things that are, or should be, on your agenda. So with that in mind, here's what we'll be covering. You are much less likely to end up in hospital with Omicron than previous COVID variants, at least 40% less likely, in fact. So, are we out of the woods? We'll be asking the experts. 85% of women say they aren't listened to by healthcare professionals, government research has found. But are medics ignoring women's concerns? And as news outlets go Christmas crackers with a load of banal saccharine baloney, here the resident Grinches on the very last Afternoon Agenda are ready to cast a more critical eye over the festive fervour in the build-up to the big day. Do we really need to talk about Christmas? You betcha. That's the agenda for the next hour. What's on yours? Email me, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or tweet me at gbnews. But first, it's time for the news headlines with the wonderful, glittery Polly.
Thanks, Alex. This is your news at 4 o'clock. Now, an estimated 1.4 million people had coronavirus in the UK in the week to last Friday, according to the Office for National Statistics. Meanwhile, new figures show the number of NHS staff absences in London related to COVID have more than doubled since last week. That comes as two early studies suggest that people infected with the Omicron strain are less likely to need hospital treatment. Dr. Andrew Preston told GB News there's still many unknowns about the new variant.
It does appear, at least in the cases we've seen, as you've just stated, that you do have a reduced risk of ending up in hospital if you do catch Omicron. But on the flip side, you've got a far greater risk of catching it in the first place. So how those two balance out as it spreads through into the older population, those with comorbidities, we still just don't know, I'm afraid.
Well, Labour is calling for the government to act urgently to support the theatre industry. The Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell told GB News the government's insurance policy isn't robust enough.
The government's insurance scheme, a very expensive scheme that it set up many months ago for the live event sector, had that covered all aspects of potential sort of COVID interruption, not just the eventuality of a national lockdown. And many of these productions could have found themselves covered by insurance, which is what you would expect if a theatre show has to be cancelled due to an outbreak of a virus across the crew.
Meanwhile, Scotland's Deputy First Minister says nightclubs will be closed in the country for at least 3 weeks from December the 27th. This comes on top of measures announced earlier this week by Nicola Sturgeon, which saw the return of additional restrictions. They include the requirement for 1 metre social distancing and a maximum capacity of 100 at a standing indoor event. The measures are thought to impact 150 clubs across the country. They now won't be able to operate without appropriate social distancing between groups and table service. International news now, and Vladimir Putin says he doesn't want conflict with Ukraine, but the ball is in the West's court, unquote. The Russian president has called for unconditional security guarantees, including no further expansion of NATO eastward. He's been speaking at his annual news conference in Russia, and it comes as Western powers fear the country is preparing to invade Ukraine as early as the beginning of next year, which Putin has denied. Children in England with peanut allergies will be the first in Europe to receive life-changing treatment. NHS England has secured a deal for the oral treatment Palforzia, which helps to reduce the severity of reaction to eating peanuts, including anaphylaxis. Up to 600 children aged 4 to 17 are expected to be treated this year. Currently, peanut allergies affect 1 in 50 children in the UK. Here in London, 2 tube lines are facing major disruption. A staff planned strike action for 6 months from next year. The Transport Union says it'll take place every weekend on the Central and Victoria nighttime services. The RMT also says they'll consider broadening action if conditions aren't improved for drivers. Members of an organised crime group who stole thousands of pounds in a series of ram raid burglaries have been jailed. 5 men were sentenced after pleading guilty to conspiring to burgle 3 premises in Westminster last year. Officers were able to identify them by using evidence from CCTV, phone records and automated number plate recognition. UK car production saw its worst performance since 1984 last month, despite a surge in demand for electric vehicles, or EVs. The Society of Motor Manufacturers said traders in November said was the 5th consecutive month of decline. It dropped by 28.7%. British production of electric and hybrid cars took a record share, however, accounting for around a third of all cars made. Clarence House has confirmed that the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will spend Christmas Day with the Queen at Windsor Castle. It's going to be Her Majesty's first year without her husband, Prince Philip, who died in April. Buckingham Palace has also announced that a service of thanksgiving for the life of the Duke of Edinburgh will take place next spring at Westminster Abbey. You're up to date. Now let's get back to the afternoon agenda. Here's Alex.
Tradition. It's a wondrous thing, isn't it? As we all prepare to act like clueless lemmings for the next couple of days, pilfering half the rainforest to wrap tat in garish paper, spread Omicron under the withered branch of an arboreal parasite, chow down the desiccated flesh from a turkey carcass, stick a spiny spruce next to the radiator to constellate knitwear with dried up needles for the next 5 months, plonk little children on the laps of strange men in giant nylon beards, festoon our homes with pictures of maroon-muzzled ungulates, put nuggets of carbon and citrus fruits in giant socks under chimneys, mummify our houses in LED lights and gaudy plastic scrag, and generally hit the source before midday, ensuring a postprandial coma during the monarch's address to the nation. Do you ever wonder why? Every year, the vast majority of the nation goes through these strange motions, which, frankly, if an alien chose the 25th of December to visit Britain, they'd probably find rather bizarre and struggle to see how a baby born by Immaculate Conception 2,000 years earlier in a stable in the Middle East connects to Bernard Matthews coining it hard and a species of Scandinavian shrub suddenly becoming the world's most prodigious plant as far afield as Barbuda. Well, here on the afternoon agenda, we love to myth bust and lift the lid on the big topics of the day. So, as you put on your festive Cliff Richard, retrieve the booze-steeped saccharine stodge from its month-long maceration in the larder, and wonder how are you going to jam a 10-kilo bird in the oven, I have lined up for you a veritable festive spread of Yuletide boffins to explain why you just spent half your salary on a load of cards for people you largely despise, ensuring RSI happily into 2022. So, as it is, indeed, the very last afternoon agenda. Yes, folks, I'm moving down the schedule next year. And before I tuck myself away in my Christmas cave to rise in the wee small hours tomorrow to be your GBNews breakfast elf for the next 3 days, this little Grinch wants to get to the bottom of why we all enter a global pandemic of mass hysteria, overindulgence and doom-laden hyper-expectation every year, which would frankly make the Magi feel underwhelmed by their paltry tidings of incense and bling. Today, we really need to talk about Christmas. Well, ho, ho, ho. The first gift under the GB News tree today is Dr. Michaela Hume, top-notch historian and traditions wonk, to unwrap all of our Christmassy customs. Michaela, fantastic to have you on. So where do we begin? There's so many rituals and things that we now do and must have evolved throughout time. But how did we used to celebrate Christmas back in the day, in the medieval period, in the Victorian period?
Well, I think we can safely blame the Victorians for all this palaver that we do in the run-up to Christmas. So traditionally, Christmas obviously is a time of reflection. It's a time of observance, observing the nativity. But the Victorians kind of took that and then ran with it at full force. So if you know, in the 18th century, you would have just maybe put some evergreen, bit of mistletoe around your house. Queen Charlotte did decorate a tree, but at this point, we don't have the arrival of what we think of as the Christmas tree at this point. But it is really the Victorians and this whole idea of this sort of consumer society, this idea of, you know, department stores and sort of bowing to the consumer. We really see it flourish in the Victorian period. So, you know, we go from evergreens to then sort of paper decorations and then Christmas trees. So I just say let's blame the Victorians.
Doesn't sound like a bad idea to me. Now, why mistletoe? I mean, is that connected to paganism or something?
It is. It is. So going back, it is. And how that then sort of evolved, and you see this evolved if you look at sort of the literature and the newspaper reports from the 19th century, you see this sort of evolve into something that is, you know, more of what we think of today, that sort of quick kiss under the mistletoe. But Christmas, and I know some people are going to love this when I say this, but Christmas was actually banned for a while. So this sort of observance of the Feast of Nativity, what it used to be called, was banned in 1647. So if we think about the time of Oliver Cromwell and the time of the Puritans, this was banned. And it wasn't until the monarch gets reinstated in 1660 that Christmas makes a revival. So for those who are thinking, I can't face another, you know, all this sort of festivities and all that, you would have loved it under Cromwell because Christmas was kind of banned.
And so why do we eat turkey, for example? Where did that come from?
Well, again, let's blame those pesky Victorians. In the beginning of the 19th century, if you lived in the north, you would have had beef. So it wouldn't have been turkey. If you lived in the south, you would have had goose. But again, because we kind of follow the monarchy starts having turkey because they're massive, you know, they're really big in size and they're really plump and they're really juicy. And it's quite an extravagant piece of meat because of its size and how plump it is. So that's why sort of turkey becomes, you know, the monarchy has it and then the middle class have it and then it filters down. And then, you know, there are actually turkey savings clubs in the 19th century. So working class people would put a few pence away each week and they would save up to be able to afford a turkey.
And what point did Father Christmas rock up with his reindeer into our lives and start coming down our chimneys?
Yeah. He's got so much to answer for, hasn't he, in millions of households across Britain right now. So that's sort of going back to St. Nicholas. And how St. Nicholas would give away his wealth to the poor. And that was the sort of the idea behind Father Christmas, is that it's a person who gives his wealth away to the poor. Again, it's evolved. So some people in some parts of the world think of Father Christmas and St. Nicholas as being having like a green costume. More recently, we have him in the red costume. In part, I think that's down to a drinks brand. But yeah, it has evolved. So St. Nicholas was traditionally a person who just basically gave his wealth away to those in need.
Michaela, honestly, this is fascinating stuff. I'm beginning to think that maybe one of Britain's greatest exports are all these Christmas traditions, because it seems, as you said, the Victorians have a lot to answer for. Not sure we should be proud of it. Dr. Michaela Hume, thank you so much for lifting the lid, unwrapping the gift that is Christmas. Well, taking us through the best of Christmas cooking and some Italian festive favourites is TV chef Giancarlo Caldesi. Giancarlo, you're in the studio with me today. This is fantastic. Great. All the better for having your delicious company.
Thank you.
So tell me about Italian Christmas. Is that a sort of like British Christmas or completely different?
Oh, well, the Italian Christmas is really full of different things. Like, first of all, it's really exuberant. And, we start Christmas Eve with some festivity. Also, every part of Italy, they got different things. I'm from Tuscany, so for instance, an example of what we do for roast, we have a capon. A capon is a castrated sort of cockerel, and it grows to 4 or 5 kilos. It's really amazing. So we don't have turkey, number one. Then we have a special, every region that I know from Italy, they go either a special pasta or a special cake. I'm from Siena, we do ricciarelli. And Panforte di Siena is well-known margherita, which was done many years ago for Queen Margherita as a present, then became it's a Christmas cake because it contains all dry fruits with candied fruit, and also brandy and all spices. So it's that kind of a winter beautiful food that is so comforting. So really, every parts of Italy, they have a different way of expressing themselves and doing something that for them means something from the heart. If you go to Venice, it will be different. And what I thought, what is really so amazing about Christmas, we, all of us, must find something that on that day, it's a great comfort to you, it's your tradition, but it's a great comfort. And that great comfort brings that kind of extra happiness. You know, I'm old now, I'm very old. But what's happened was little. I was looking forward to that day to eat my ricciarelli, to eat the capon that we didn't, we had to grow it. So it wasn't that something that you had ready baked. So those traditions be put to me as a Roman Catholic, because I was brought up like that. Go to church, come back and have the wonderful meal. My mom, she used to make lasagna, but really they're very different, believe me. So those traditions, if I can do it, replicate one dish now with my wife, Katie, and the kids, George and Flavio, I would be delighted. One dish that makes me so happy, takes me back for when I was 7, 6, or 5 years old that I can remember. So Christmas, it's an abundance of traditions, and people should really, especially now, have a day with that tradition that makes them feel really happy and something special.
And do you sort of get stuck into unwrapping presents on the 25th, or is it slightly different?
Yes, absolutely. Lots of presents, lots of papers. The most wonderful thing on my Christmases is when the kids were small and they come down screaming and they've got what they really wanted, Father Christmas, blah, blah. So that's another wonderful thing, the actual Father Christmas aspect of it. It's so wonderful, it's so joyful. And now we should, on the 25th in the morning, all the kids go down and see Father Christmas has been, if it's drunk a little bit of the sherry or ate a little biscuit. It's amazing. So this year, amongst every year, we should be together as a family and truly, truly look at those little things that matter an awful lot as people. And that's what I really, really believe.
And do you start your day with a cheeky little snifter as well, like most Brits? A little grappa maybe, or...? No. No, I know I'm a restaurateur and I drink. I don't drink much. But later I do like a glass of champagne, and usually I open a bottle of red wine with my main course that I cherished either 3-4 years before. Because I'm Tuscan, obviously, Santignanello, Sassicaia, something really, really special. And I have that much, and that makes me really happy. And the reason I say that, when I open a bottle from my own village,
I think people associate with me is the smell, the taste of the wine that is so bring you home. And that's why we are in England. I'm in England for 46 years. I'm very happy, it's not a problem. So if something that opening a bottle of beer brings you that kind of feelings, so you should. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm different, I'm a different culture, and therefore I embrace my culture, mixing it with my wife, Katie, that she wants the bread sauce for the chicken, or the cockerel that we got this year. Usually we have a turkey, and I never had bread sauce from my mum, it was different.
Yeah.
So I enjoy that, thinking that, yes, this is Great Britain, this is England, and so I've been here so many years now that if I miss my bread sauce, it wouldn't be the same Christmas. I don't know if it makes sense to you, but little thing.
Your hybrid Italian-English Christmas. It sounds glorious. I don't know, if I was from Siena, it would be a problem leaving, I'm telling you that much. Gorgeous place.
Absolutely.
Anyway, thank you for coming all the way into the studio
You're welcome,
today.
Alex. Have a lovely Christmas.
You too.
Merry Christmas to everybody, and thank you so much for your invitation.
Bless you. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Well, joining us now, wait for this, is the self-proclaimed Mr. Christmas, Andy Park, who says he's celebrated Christmas Day every day. Here he is, since 1993. Mate, you're a lunatic. It's grotesque. I can't stick Christmas. How are you managing to do it every day?
Merry Christmas. I love Christmas. I've celebrated Christmas now for 29 years nearly, and I'll tell you what, I've never had a bad day. It puts a smile on my face. I've got the decorations up all year round. I watch the Queen's speech every single day at 3 o'clock. It goes on and on. I just love Christmas. I am not going to stop for nobody. Nobody, I mean nobody.
Do you actually have presents under the tree and unwrap a present every day as well? Do you find yourself dotting backwards and forwards all the time to the high street to make sure you've constantly got a stash of gifts?
Exactly. I mean, you said it. I mean, I have to go downtown every day, buy a cut of presents, come back here, wrap them up, put them under the tree. But it gives you a quick feeling because in the morning you get out of bed knowing you've got presents. You should try it. Absolutely.
Oh, I think we've got a bit quiet there. I think the Christmas joy is drowning you out. Oh, I think your phone's ringing.
I'm here, I'm here.
There you are, Mr. Christmas.
No,
Thought we'd lost you. Your neighbours must think you're an absolute lunatic, and your electricity bill must be enormous.
Well, it's not too bad. All the lights I use is LED lights on the tree and around the house and all that. You know, it's quite cheap. But I mean, there are 365 days they are on for, but maybe a little bit more than a lot of other people pay. But, you know, what's the difference? I mean, I love Christmas. I love the lights. Got to have the lights. Got to have that sort of thing for, you know, decorations for Christmas Day. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, it does cost a lot of money to celebrate Christmas every day. I mean, a Christmas dinner every day, I mean, it costs anything from 25 quid to £100. I mean, I have a lot of parties here and invite a lot of people, the neighbours, relations. They all come around because they know they're going to get a free mince pie and a glass of sherry. But and I end up paying for it. But I don't mind. It's Christmas in this house every day.
I love it. Now, if that eccentricity wasn't enough, I hear that you actually can no longer eat turkey because you've developed quite an affinity for the little beasts.
Well, yeah. Well, you know, I've got my own pet turkey, believe it or not too far. But that's a different story. And I've eaten 11,500 turkeys since the day I started celebrating Christmas every day, and drank, you know, nearly just over 10,000 bottles of champagne, which sounds a lot, but it's not a lot really because it's over 28 and a half years, and I've eaten well over 1 million sprouts. It goes on and on, and but you know, that's Christmas, isn't it? That's what you do. You do indulge in these things in Christmas time.
And how's your waistline after 11,500 turkeys, sherry and mince pies every day? You're looking fairly fine feta, actually, though. I'm surprised.
I did put on a lot of weight. I started, you know, all that time ago, and I was 12.5 stone. And I boomed right up to 19 stone. I had to see the doctor. He put me on a diet. He just said, don't stop it. Just cut down a little bit. Get a smaller turkey. Don't put so many roasters on your plate. Just don't eat so much, basically. And cut down on the cream on the Christmas pudding, you know, which I've done, and I, you know, started walking a lot and riding my bike, and it's just fallen off me now, you know.
Do you know what? I'm such a Grinch. I don't care for Christmas at all. I'd rather be on a beach with a cocktail in my hand. But if you invite me over to your gaff next year, I'm there. Looks like fun.
You are so welcome to come. I'll make sure there's a present under the tree. Nice Christmas dinner. We can go for a walk after it if you want down the town, whatever, and come back and have a glass of champagne.
That sounds good. I'll tell you what, you'll bring out my Gloucester accent as well, taking too much time speaking to you. Dinner and all that. Right? Lovely Christmas
Gloucester.
dinner.
This is Wiltshire.
I know. I saw him. Yeah, I saw on a little live location in Wiltshire. But you sound West Country to me. You sound like one of mine. It's been glorious speaking to you, Mr. Christmas. I mean, I just don't even know what to make of it. Fantastic stuff. We love eccentricity in this country. So keep up the good work and Merry Christmas for the next 365 days and counting. Well, we're continuing this conversation throughout the show. And I want to know what you think. What do you get up to at Christmas? Do you have any weird traditions? Have you managed to clock up over 11,000 turkeys? No, didn't think so. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.uk, and you can also tweet me. And in true Grinch style, we've put a poll up asking rather miserably, has Christmas lost its meaning? Cast your vote so I know what you, the nation, really thinks. Well, time for a short break. I think I need it after all that. And a check on the weather forecast. I'll be back in a tick.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hi there. Spells of rain and increasingly snow over the hills in the far north, drying up elsewhere and really quite mild in the south and the west. Actually, quite a temperature contrast across the UK at the moment. Mild southwesterlies for many, but cold air remaining close to the north of the UK. In between these weather fronts moving in, hence the rain, and for northern Scotland, hill snow. In fact, the snow level comes down overnight. 200 to 300 metres we'll see snow falling in the north of Scotland, settling above 300 metres, 2 to 5 centimetres, and above 500 metres, 10 centimetres. So watch out over some higher routes if you're travelling in the north of Scotland on Christmas Eve. It does fizzle later in the night. Elsewhere, plenty of cloud, I think, by the start of Christmas Eve. Some low cloud and some fog in places, particularly through the central and northern parts of the country. So a grey and dreary start, not much sunshine around. And then it turns wet and windy as this band of rain moves in from the southwest. Southwest England around lunchtime, Wales, central southern England, Northern Ireland later in the afternoon. Still mild in the south, colder further north and east. Any rain and hill snow tending to fizzle out, but a few flakes of snow possible over the Pennines by this stage on Christmas Eve. However, this weather front, as it moves in, it brings a spell of rain overnight to the southeast, the Midlands, and then eventually it begins to stall across Northern Ireland, Northern England, North Wales, East Anglia and the Midlands for Christmas Day morning. Clear spells in the far north, a frosty start here, a cold start in the north, a milder further south, and then a three-way split, I think, for Christmas Day itself. Cold and bright across much of Scotland, especially to the north of the Central Belt. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, the Midlands, fairly grey and damp. To the south, it looks like there'll be spells of rain and showers, and that'll be much milder. Similar conditions on Boxing Day.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for the Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is the Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Are
you ready for a great British Christmas?
Well, we are, because from Christmas Eve till Boxing Day, 6 a.m. till 10 a.m, we're not coming out of your chimneys, we're coming out of your screens.
Absolutely. We might not all be able to see our families this year, but it doesn't matter because we are a GB News family and these shows are all about you.
They finally allowed us to co-present. I can't wait. You don't want to miss it.
Absolutely. Happy Christmas, everyone.
Happy Christmas. You know, I still can't believe they're going to make me get up at about 3:30 in the morning tomorrow. Good luck, Alex. Welcome back. You're watching the Afternoon Agenda, the last Afternoon Agenda, and there's lots more still to come. But first, let's get a check on the news headlines with the wonderfully festive Polly.
Thanks, Alex. Here are the latest news headlines. 119,789 people have tested positive for COVID over the last 24 hours. That's the highest level since the pandemic began. And it marks an increase of 13,000 from yesterday's daily record. Meanwhile, new figures show the number of NHS staff in London who are absent from work because of COVID has more than doubled since last week. Scotland's Deputy First Minister says nightclubs will be closed in the country for at least 3 weeks from December the 27th. That comes on top of measures announced earlier on this week by Nicola Sturgeon, which saw the return of additional restrictions. They include the requirement for 1 metre social distancing and a maximum capacity of 100 people at a standing indoor event. The measures are thought to impact 150 clubs across Scotland. Hundreds of mourners have paid their respects to a 12-year-old girl who was stabbed to death in Liverpool last month. Ava White was killed after a Christmas lights switch on in the city centre. Police said she died from catastrophic injuries. Clarence House has confirmed the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will spend Christmas Day with the Queen. Her Majesty will spend the festivities at Windsor Castle for a second year and not travel to Sandringham, as is the tradition. Buckingham Palace has also announced that a service of thanksgiving for the life of the Duke of Edinburgh will take place next spring at Westminster Abbey. Those are your headlines. I'm back at 5 o'clock with a full update. See you then.
Thanks, Pauls. Now, 2 early studies suggest people with Omicron are nearly 45% less likely to be hospitalised than those with the Delta variant of COVID. That's according to scientists at Imperial College. However, some researchers from Scotland warn that the milder nature of Omicron may well be offset by its higher transmissibility. The UK reported over 100,000 new daily infections for the first time in the pandemic yesterday, with restrictions in Wales and Northern Ireland starting on Boxing Day. Boris Johnson, meanwhile, has ruled out any changes for England before Christmas. Well, joining us now is Professor of Bacteriology at the University of Aberdeen, Hugh Pennington. Hugh, who's got it right, Boris or Sturgeon on this one?
Well, I suppose you could say they're both right to a point. And the problem is we still have really a lot of missing information about Omicron. The one thing that's certain is that it gets around very, very much more easily than Delta. But how that is going to translate into the number of cases, clearly there are a lot more cases yesterday and today than there have ever been. But when is that sort of surge going to peak is a crucial question. Well, of course, we can't tell until it's happened. And it's the same up to a point with hospital admissions, that basically, if you've got a very large number of cases, a fraction of them will actually be driven into hospital, go into ICU, and sadly, some of them will die. In fact, some have already died from Omicron. So it's not a common cold, but it's closer to a common cold than Delta, probably. But at the moment, we just can't be certain. So Boris Johnson is taking a bit of a gamble in the sense that let's hope the peak comes today or tomorrow or whenever, this week. And Nicola Sturgeon is saying, well, this very large number of cases might go on for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and put a lot of pressure on the health service. The problem about the pressure on the health service is not so much the actual number of people who are actually in hospital with COVID, but the fact that a lot of people are off sick with the virus, not ill, but, it's like flu. When we have a flu season, a bad flu season, usually starting just after Christmas, lots of people are off sick. They're off 2 or 3 days from work. And that puts an enormous amount of pressure, particularly on the health service. And that's probably what we're seeing mostly at the moment. The pressure on the health service is that it's sort of full. It's got no spare capacity anyway. But when you have a lot of people off sick, or maybe just, quarantining themselves, and you've got the winter with maybe other viruses like flu coming along in January, well, I just say what I've been saying for weeks, and that I'm not a policymaker.
Yeah, I mean, the incidence is breathtaking. I read somewhere that it's about 1 in 45 people at the moment currently testing positive for COVID. It's an astonishing amount of people. If you were a gambling man, and people in England especially would probably want to hear, predictions on this as they try and make their plans between that sort of weird period between Christmas and New Year, do you think we're likely to be seeing a reintroduction of restrictions based on, your read of the situation in your field?
Well, I think the Prime Minister's got a big problem with many members of his party who are very reluctant. They didn't even like Plan B, which wasn't all that much, really, over Plan A. So he's got a big political problem there. And then there's the uncertainty about just how nasty the virus is going to be. And so he's got a very, very difficult task. Now, making predictions, my favourite quote is Sam Goldwyn, making predictions is difficult, particularly about the future. So, I just don't know what he's going to do. The devolved administrations in Wales and in Scotland and Northern Ireland, to a degree, are being a bit more precautionary than in England. And, of course, the politics are different there as well. So, in a sense, it's politics that's driving things at the moment. And I think, Boris Johnson is keeping his fingers crossed, hoping that the virus will peak very soon, that this large number of cases won't go on increasing, that the pressure on the health service won't get any worse. If it does, well, then we'll have to look at some more restrictions coming in. The trouble is, those restrictions, to have a big effect on the virus, really ought to be in play now. Well, they're not, but there it is.
I mean, as Omicron is ripping through the country, are those booster jabs effective enough to prevent its spread and prevent hospitalisations, or is the fact that this is happening concurrently, simultaneously, almost lessening the effect of the booster, because it takes a few weeks for it to sort of bed down in your immune system and take effect, doesn't it?
That's right, yes. I mean, the booster takes an effect quicker than the original doses, but it's not instantaneous. And, a week, 10 days would be pretty well a minimum time for it to really get those antibodies rolling and those T cells rolling and so on that we need to protect us against a serious infection. I think the good news is that even having just the 2 jabs is going to give you a significant degree of protection against being really sick, but not stopping you being infected. If you get the infection and you've had the 2 jabs, you're not going to have hospital admission on any scale at all. But at the moment, we're still working out with Omicron exactly what's going on in terms of the immune response and all that kind of thing. And, that's another problem for the policymakers. You can't say the booster is the silver bullet. It's a sort of bullet, but it's not a silver one in the sense that it's not going to give absolute protection. And let's face it, none of the vaccines did with any kind of variant. That there was always a bit of leakiness in the immune response, but there's a lot more with Omicron than there was with Delta, and there was a bit more with Delta than there was with the previous variants. So, it's a moving target that we're hitting. But the one thing we can be certain about is having the boosters is a very good thing.
Prof Pennington, thank you for your advice and your insight as this continues to unfold, the tales of Omicron. I wouldn't be planning too much for New Year's Eve if I was you. It doesn't seem like it's going to be a good outlook, does it? Well, I'm shortly back, should I say, after a break, so don't go anywhere. You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of 2 wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, the menopause and medical stigmas around women's health conditions are the focus of a new government plan to tackle health gender inequality in England. The so-called Vision for Women's Health comes after the government received nearly 110,000 responses to a survey, and they found that 8 in 10 women have had their concerns ignored by healthcare professionals at some point. Nearly 2 in 3 respondents with a health condition or disability said they do not feel supported by available services. A women's health ambassador will now be appointed to raise the profile of women's health, including increasing awareness on taboo topics. Hymenoplasty, a practice which reconstructs a woman's hymen, will also be outlawed at the earliest opportunity. Well, joining me now in the studio is journalist and commentator Khadija Khan. Khadija, thank you for coming in. Does this sort of ring true for you? Is that something that you can relate to when you sort of going to the doctor or in hospital or whatever? Do you feel that there's a disconnect sometimes between you and the medical professionals?
I think we have to look into details that what's going on around, because specifically when talking about the women are, have less access to the high quality health, healthcare, then we tend to, bring up this idea that there is always deficiency, there is always lack of support, and there is always problems that women are facing. And the consultation the government did earlier this year, that it reveals that 100,000 people responded to this consultation. They are individuals, and more than 400 responses are from the organization. It says the same thing, and Minister for Health. These all revelations are shocking for her as well, and she says that this is really concerning, that over 3/4 women, they feel like they are not listened to when they go to health profession. But I think that it's more related to the taboos that is being mentioned in the report, and stigmas attached to certain health conditions, that women they experience. Because socially we see that women are very much, feel uncomfortable to discuss those things, even with the family members. If I talk about the minority communities, there are certain, taboos and, stigmas attached to even normal things like periods. If you are on periods, you cannot discuss these things with your mother and your cousins. It seems to be, a bad thing. You should not be discussing these things with your family members. So I think we need to focus on the social attitude more. And when we talk about, like in general terms, and try to, lump all these things together, then we mix up the whole thing. We conflate so many issues, and despite of having the facts that we see that women are facing these problems, why women are facing these problems, we just focus on the assumptions and the concerns that we may feel sometimes. At some time, maybe we feel like we are not being responded to. But I think it's my personal experience is not like that. I wouldn't say that whenever I contacted to a medical professional, I was not being treated, like professionally, and I didn't receive the help that I needed. But obviously, I cannot deny that some people that do experience these kind of things. But I think making generalized statements would be very, very problematic in this issue, especially when it comes to the health issue, which should be based on the evidence rather than on assumptions and, fallacious arguments.
I mean, this report now is going to move forward to banning hymenoplasty, which is essentially re-virginization, isn't it? It's where women get sort of, stuff stitched up down there to look as though she's never had sex. Why is that such a terrible practice? And, do you think this needs to be outlawed?
Actually, it's an outdated, perception about what it is to be a virgin woman, and she should be, in a certain condition before she marries. I would say, in general, when we say women, they don't prescribe to, these sort of ideas in modern-day Britain, I would say. But the conservative communities, they do hold such views still. They put so many restrictions on their, girls and women. Don't let them go out alone, and don't have, don't let them mingle with this mainstream society, because the fear behind all these actions is that maybe they will have an affair, or maybe they have a relationship, and it is not allowed. Maybe this will affect the marriage prospects, So it should not be encouraged. And then, it takes a very ugly turn. Women who are forced to take the virginity testing before marriage. This is also a very happening, practice here in the UK. And this is a very ugly thing for the women, because it's painful. It takes away your dignity.
Yeah.
Yes, it takes away your dignity that you are all about, a vagina. You are nothing more than vagina. It says like this, and it's very disrespecting if we look at this practice. But this does happen here in the UK, in the modern day Britain, and this is very concerning. I think it should be outlawed. If people, I don't think so that anybody would say that I want to do this. I mean, what's the point of, having such a treatment that making yourself re-virgin? I mean, why it is so important in a relationship? And if it's that important in the relationship, I think we should not be having such a relationship. And it goes for the women from minority backgrounds as well. But it is so strong, the taboo related to virginity testing. It's so strong within the minority communities that you can't imagine. That women, young girls, most of them live their life, under the fear, like, we should not lose our virginity. Otherwise, we would not be able to be a wife, and we would not be respected in the family, and so on.
Medieval practice, and we're glad to see the back of it. Khadija, thank you so much for coming into the studio. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to be back after another short break and the weather forecast. Don't go anywhere, because there's loads more still to come.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hi there. Spells of rain and increasingly snow over the hills in the far north, drying up elsewhere and really quite mild in the south and the west. Actually, quite a temperature contrast across the UK at the moment. Mild southwesterlies for many, but cold air remaining close to the north of the UK. In between these weather fronts moving in, hence the rain, and for northern Scotland, hill snow. In fact, the snow level comes down overnight. 200 to 300 metres. We'll see snow falling in the north of Scotland, settling above 300 metres, 2 to 5 centimetres, and above 500 metres, 10 centimetres. So watch out over some higher routes if you're travelling in the north of Scotland on Christmas Eve. It does fizzle later in the night. Elsewhere, plenty of cloud, I think, by the start of Christmas Eve. Some low cloud and some fog in places, particularly through the central and northern parts of the country. So a grey and dreary start, not much sunshine around. And then it turns wet and windy as this band of rain moves in from the southwest. Southwest England around lunchtime, Wales, central southern England, Northern Ireland later in the afternoon. Still mild in the south, colder further north and east. Any rain and hill snow tending to fizzle out, but a few flakes of snow possible over the Pennines by this stage on Christmas Eve. However, this weather front, as it moves in, it brings a spell of rain overnight to the southeast, the Midlands, and then eventually it begins to stall across Northern Ireland, Northern England, North Wales, East Anglia and the Midlands for Christmas Day morning. Clear spells in the far north, a frosty start here, a cold start in the north, a milder further south, and then a three-way split, I think, for Christmas Day itself. Cold and bright across much of Scotland, especially to the north of the Central Belt. Southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, Northern England, the Midlands, fairly grey and damp. To the south, it looks like there'll be spells of rain and showers, and that'll be much milder. Similar conditions on Boxing Day.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Does your house inevitably reach DEFCON 5 by the time the Queen takes to our screens? Have all those expectations been set on fire like a flambéed Christmas pud when the turkey is dry, the kids refuse to touch the sprites, you went to great culinary lengths to stop tasting like bile? How do you tell Nan that she gave you Minions socks last year too? Or that little Olivia has hoovered up so much Omicron at playgroup that Christmas is off? Oh yes, it's the most wonderful time of the year, except when it really isn't. Well, here to help us navigate the volatile dynamics of the festive period is psychologist Jo Hemmings. Jo, how do we deal with that one dreaded family member?
Okay, the dreaded family member. Anyway, hello, Alex. Again.
Hello, Jo.
So, that dreaded family member, yes, they're going to be there. I suppose you've got to think about what that family member may have gone through in the past year. Everyone's had a very different experience of the last year, and I think emotions are running high. And I think what you need to do is expect the unexpected. I mean, these things are going to happen. Disasters, but they're not really disasters. They're just stuff that happens. Happen every single year because you combine the elderly relative with the kids, with a long day, with you being on a short fuse, with a bit of alcohol. And basically, it is a recipe, a perfect storm for things kind of going wrong. But these are the things that you look back on in years to come and you say, yeah, well, Aunt Mabel did this or whatever. They're the things you laugh at. They're the things that kind of make Christmas Christmas. If you really want a sterile Christmas dinner, you know, that looks like a telly ad and everyone's incredibly well behaved and no naughtiness or no issues occur, then I don't think that sounds like much fun.
I love how festive that is, Jo. So, I mean, good old Christmas with its side serving of a toxic atmosphere. How do you diffuse the situation when you can feel those tensions mounting? Because they always do. Someone gets a little bit sulky. Someone has a little spat with someone else. You go through all the rituals of reading cracker jokes and it doesn't quite do the job of putting a smile on everyone's face. If you're in that situation and the dinner table becomes a war zone, how do you stop it?
Okay, so first you've got to remember, if you're the one hosting Christmas and you've put all this prep and planning into it, then you are the boss. So when you see a situation beginning to escalate, potentially getting out of hand, you literally get them to do time out. It's the adult equivalent of the naughty step. You're not having it. It's your watch. It's not going on. So you've got to be firm. The other thing is set boundaries. So a couple of years ago, oh Christ, was it 3-4 years ago? You know, Brexit was the hot potato, not the roast potato, around the dining room table. And there was arguments about that. Of course, this year it's going to be COVID. And I think you have to say, okay, these things are banned. We're not talking politics. We're not talking COVID. We're going back to an old style family Christmas. Yeah, there'll be a bit of conflict. But if you start to see it escalate out of just a bit of ribbing, then I think you step in and say, it's not happening. I've done all this. I've worked hard for it. I want to enjoy it. It ain't happening.
What about sort of dragging people in to help with everything? Because I know growing up, you know, my mum would be in the kitchen boiling giblets and all sorts of like ghoulish things from about 6 a.m. And we were always sort of roped in to help her. And it took the strain off her, but it also made sure we're all involved in delivering something positive. We all wanted it to go well. Is that something you'd encourage other families to do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, get them on chores, get them on peeling potatoes, all those things that sort of take a while, prepping the parsnips. You know, just get them doing stuff to help you. I find emptying and refilling dishwashers, I want someone to do, because that is a tedious chore because everything gets dirty so quickly, and I'm trying to keep my kitchen work surfaces relatively clean. I've got a tiny kitchen. So actually I can't get in there when there's two others, so they can get on with it. So yeah, getting people to join in. And the most important thing is that everybody's fed. Your turkey is cooked. That is kind of important. Don't want to give people salmonella. But it doesn't really matter if the rest of it is mushy, not brilliant, or whatever. You're there to celebrate with each other, and you do not need it to look immaculate. If it's a bit messy, bit not quite the way you planned it, nobody cares. They want it. As long as everyone is eating, that's what matters.
And what about when you get that really rubbish gift, or you've given the rubbish gift because someone does the whole and you think, yeah, you don't like that, do you? Is it best to say, can I change this? Or do you just have to sort of go along with the faux delight?
Yeah, I mean, being a psychologist, that's dangerous territory for me, because I can see when somebody opens a gift and I can see disappointment momentarily while they then say, wow, thank you so much. So I kind of know. If it was me or my family, I think they've sort of been trained to, say it's great at the time when everybody's around, and then maybe have a quiet word later and say, is there any chance of changing this? Because I don't like it at all. But I think at the time, part of Christmas is to at least look like it's a great gift for you, because otherwise it just spoils the moment and may upset the gift giver. But yeah, I can always see it in somebody's face, and I've seen it many times.
Yeah, I hope you could see it. You're a psychologist, Jo. That's your job. Jo, it's been fantastic having you on. Thank you for those top tips to surviving Christmas Day. I think a lot of families will benefit from those. Jo Cummings there, telling the nation how to keep it chill this Christmas. Now, you're watching the very last afternoon agenda, and there's lots more still to come. Well, hello. Welcome. If you've just joined the very last afternoon agenda, where have you been? Hopefully preparing for the 25th. I'm Alex Phillips, and this show isn't about news as you know it. We discuss and we debate things that need to be on your agenda. And still to come this hour. It's good news so far on Omicron. Despite it spreading fast, it's much less likely to put us in hospital, according to early studies. So we're going to ask a virologist if we're out of the woods. Let's hope so. Now, how's your grasp of Christmas trivia? Oh yes, Quizmaster extraordinaire Jay Flynn will be putting my knowledge to the test, and you, the viewer, can join in too. Get your pencils and your notepads out. And while I'm at it, we really need to talk about Christmas. How does the season of goodwill all too often end up fraught and overindulged? Has it lost its meaning? Is it time to make Crimbo great again? That's the agenda for next hour. What's on yours? Email me, gbviews@gbnews.uk, or of course you can tweet me at gbnews. But first, it's time for the news with Polly. Almost called you Holly.
Yes, I'm Polly Middlehurst, and this is your news at 5 o'clock on GB News. 119,789 people have tested positive for COVID over the last 24-hour period. That's the highest level since the pandemic began, and it marks an increase of 13,000 from yesterday's daily record. Meanwhile, research carried out by the UK Health Security Agency appears to show that the Omicron variant results in fewer severe disease for those infected with it. Dr. Andrew Preston told GB News there's still many unknowns about Omicron.
It does appear, at least in the cases we've seen, as you've just stated, that you do have a reduced risk of ending up in hospital if you do catch Omicron. But on the flip side, you've got a far greater risk of catching it in the first place. So how those two balance out as it spreads through into the older population, those with comorbidities, we still just don't know, I'm afraid.
Meanwhile, Labour's calling for the government to act urgently to support the theatre industry. Shadow Culture Secretary Lucy Powell told GB News the government's insurance policy just isn't robust enough.
Had the government's insurance scheme, a very expensive scheme that it set up many months ago for the live event sector, had that covered all aspects of potential sort of COVID interruption, not just the eventuality of a national lockdown, and many of these productions could have found themselves covered by insurance, which is what you would expect if a theatre show has to be cancelled due to an outbreak of a virus across the crew.
Scotland's Deputy First Minister says nightclubs will be closed in the country for at least 3 weeks from December the 27th. That comes on top of measures announced earlier this week by Nicola Sturgeon, which saw the return of additional restrictions. They include the requirement for 1 metre social distancing and a maximum capacity of 100 at a standing indoor event. The measures are thought to impact 150 clubs across the country. They now won't be able to operate without appropriate social distancing between groups and table service. International news, and the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has urged Russia to enter talks over its military build-up on the border with Ukraine. It comes after the Russian President Vladimir Putin said he doesn't want conflict with Ukraine, but called for no further expansion of NATO eastward. He's been speaking at his annual news conference. Western powers fear Russia is preparing to invade Ukraine, possibly as early as the beginning of next year, which Putin has denied. Children in England with peanut allergies will be the first in Europe to receive life-changing treatment. NHS England has secured a deal for the oral treatment Palforzia, which helps to reduce the severity of reaction to eating peanuts, including anaphylaxis. Up to 600 children aged 4 to 17 are expected to be treated this year. Currently, peanut allergies affect 1 in 50 children in the UK. 2 London tube lines are facing major disruption as staff plan strike action for 6 months from next year. The Transport Union says it'll take place every weekend on the Central and Victoria nighttime services. The RMT also says they'll consider broadening action if conditions aren't improved for drivers. Members of an organised crime group who stole thousands of pounds in a series of ram raid burglaries have been jailed. 5 men were sentenced after pleading guilty to conspiring to burgle 3 premises in Westminster, London last year. Officers were able to identify them by using evidence from CCTV, phone records and automated number plate recognition. UK car production saw its worst performance since 1984 last month, despite a surge in demand for electric vehicles. The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders said November was the 5th consecutive month of decline. It dropped by 28.7%. British production of electric and hybrid cars, though, took a record share, accounting for around a third of all cars made. And Clarence House has confirmed the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will spend Christmas Day with the Queen at Windsor Castle this year. It'll be Her Majesty's first year without her husband, Prince Philip, who died in April. Buckingham Palace has also announced that a service of thanksgiving for the life of the Duke of Edinburgh will take place next spring at Westminster Abbey. That's all from me. I'm back in half an hour with the headlines. Until then, let's get back to Alex.
Step away from the sellotape, Jean. Put the kettle on or pour a sherry. It's not worth it. Take a pew and chill. Because all of this youlish foolishness isn't worth blowing a gasket over. Jesus never asked us to pimp our houses like a Soho brothel or make sure a fictional character's imaginary flying deer had a carrot to eat when it somehow managed to squeeze its quadrupedal bulk down the chimney that you don't even own. The Bible didn't urge you to get a fidget spinner for little Derek or cremate a £20 fowl while screeching Slade at the top of your lungs. So take a pause and let your festive friends here on the afternoon agenda explain why all of this nativity nuts really is crackers. Because today, bar humbug, we really need to talk about Christmas. Oh, I'm excited to say first to arrive at the afternoon agenda manger with tidings of joy is GB News' very own wise man, Neil Oliver. Neil, great to have you on. Christmas, are you into all the history, the pageantry, the rituals, or do you like a pared back Christmas?
No, I have loved Christmas since before I can remember. And I absorbed the spirit of Christmas from my mum and dad, and I grew up in a family of 5 two big sisters. I have loved Christmas for forever, and I've carried that with me, and I am possibly the Christmassiest person you could ever hope to meet. So go for it. Take Christmas down if you dare.
So what are all the rituals? I mean, so many. We discussed in the first hour of the programme where some of them might have come from the Victorian, bought trees and cards. But there's so many peculiarities, eating turkey, things that are nothing to do with the Bible. How did all of these evolve?
I think it's been a process by which all sorts of festivals and celebrations of the need to pay attention in the darkest days of winter. I mean, I'm talking about Christmas in the northern latitudes, where I've grown up. It's always been about, long before the birth of Jesus Christ, there have been thousands of years of people trying to get through the winter by lighting fires, feasting together, being together, and promising one another that the light will come back, the sun will come back, the days will get better, the days will get brighter, and on account of that, because of that, all sorts of things have become mixed together. You can ask me any questions that you like, but it's basically about people coming together in the dark of winter to celebrate the promise of the return of the light.
What's the significance of the 25th? Am I right in thinking that particular date was chosen because it tied into an old pagan feast?
Oh, well, the 25th of December, during the Roman Empire, well, people even before the Romans, everyone worshipped the sun. You go back for as long as we've got recorded history, and almost certainly beyond that, people have worshipped the sun for obvious reasons, this golden globe that rises in the sky every day. So people paid attention to it and worshipped it as a god. The Romans worshipped the sun as Sol. And in the 200s and the 300s AD, so in the early part of the millennium, there was Sol Invictus. The Romans worshipped the unconquered sun, and his feast day, the feast day of Sol Invictus, was the 25th of December in the Roman calendar. Now, it seems that when the early Christians, after the birth of Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ was probably born around 5 or 6 BC, but the early Christians weren't particularly bothered or interested in when he had been born. The Gospels, the early Gospels, they talk about the nativity, the birth of Jesus, but they don't actually bother to place it in the year. They don't tell us when it actually happened. It was only a bit later that in the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD that Christians started to pay attention to when Jesus might have been born. And it looks as though they borrowed the date of 25th of December, which was the date of the late Roman celebration of Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, which is to say SUN, the sun in the sky, and they took it as the useful date for the birth of Jesus Christ, the Son, SON of God.
What about things like the importance of mistletoe? Is that something that ties back to our sort of early roots as well?
Oh, well, mistletoe's got ancient significance. Mistletoe appears in oak trees. It's this green presence, and it appeers within the oak tree in winter when all else around it seems to be is dead. There's it's the winter time when other things aren't growing, but the mistletoe is there. And the ancients, the ancestors, seem to have been interested in what on earth mistletoe was, how something green and alive was appearing within the oak tree, during a time of dying and of death. And so obviously it became significant to them as a symbol of life beyond death. And then you've got the legend of Balder, the Norse god, who was indestructible. He could not be killed by anything. And his brother gods, Thor included, used to pass their time by throwing stones and spears and hitting him with swords, and nothing would hurt him. And then Loki was annoyed by how much Balder was loved by all the other gods, and he was the god of mischief, and he went away and he learned that mistletoe could hurt Balder, and he brought back a shaft of mistletoe, and he had a blind god who didn't know any the better fire a shaft of mistletoe at Balder, and mistletoe was able to kill Balder, the most beloved god. And so mistletoe has always been in the northern latitudes, especially amongst Scandinavians, it has always had a powerful myth. But basically, it's about something that seems to grow within the tree in a time of death. So it fits in to that idea of life after death, reincarnation, and the triumph of life over death. And that's a very long-winded explanation for mistletoe.
No, it's fascinating stuff. Neil, thank you so much for coming on and lifting the lid on some of our customs and rituals, the incredible sort of tapestry and fabric that is this incredible mix of cultures and our ancestors and our roots, which has led to many of our Christmas traditions. It is fascinating. Neil.
Merry Christmas, Alex.
Merry Christmas, Neil. Oh, Neil Oliver, who else? One of my favourite humans on the planet. Now, our second king is the Aussie Melchior from Perth, Adam D'Attulio, to make us all festively covetous of baubles and, of course, Barbies on the beach. Adam, what are you doing? How hot is it over there? Come on, break it to me.
Oh, look, Alex, I have to tell you, it is going to be 42 degrees on Christmas Day, so it is an absolute scorcher.
Is that 42 degrees in, like, normal currency or Fahrenheit?
No, that is in Celsius. That is, wow. I know, very, very hot weather. So all of us will be going down to the beach at Christmas, and the beach is such a huge part of Australian culture. I mean, so many families will get together on Christmas Day. They'll forget about having, these big dinners or big lunches indoors. They'll take them off to the beach, set up a nice picnic, and just rev up the barbecue and have a good time.
Do you still do mad things like stick snowflakes places and artificial, ice on the windows and have Scandinavian trees, or do you just think that's nonsense down under? Why would we do that? We're Antipodeans.
No, we want to live a white Christmas as well. There's a huge divide in Australia. There's half of us who just love the heat and love the good weather and just really, want to embrace that. But the other half want to live that traditional white Christmas. I mean, they've watched Love Actually. They've watched all the big Christmas films. They dream of having a white Christmas. So, as close as they can get to it, they'll try. They'll even use fake snow in a can. They'll spray it on their Christmas trees.
And in terms of
lots
grub,
of things that they use.
Is it dry? I mean, you say, you like picnics and barbecues, but is there still a bit of a tradition that you've inherited from your previous overlords about turkeys, or did you just leave that when you got your independence from our madness?
Look, it's not just prawns that we put on the barbecue. We do put a lot of things on. Turkeys are really common in the household on Christmas Day. We've got the hams. We're glazing all the hams, making sure they're all carved and all the families have enough to eat. But I think because Australia is a very multicultural society, there are lots of cuisines that have come into our Christmas times. It's not just the roasts that we get. We get so many things on offer. So part of my family is Italian. So we have a half Australian, half Italian Christmas. So it's an interesting hybrid. And a lot of families in Australia will experience traditional Aussie Christmas, which is, cooking up the barbecue, having fun on the beach, practicing the cricket. Beach cricket's a big thing. We're just preparing for the next Ashes test, obviously, training up our cricketers. But, there's so many cultures and so many different things that families do. So, I mean, every Australian family, I would have to say, would die for the opportunity to go to the beach. But there's so many differences as well. Some people want the white Christmas, some people don't want it. So, lots of things make up our Christmas time in Australia.
And you're tuning into the Queen's speech, or is that more of a British tradition?
Oh, I think that's a British tradition, but I can say I did last year tune in to the Queen's speech 2 years ago actually, because I was coming over to the UK for the first time and I wanted to get into the spirit of everything.
And how'd you find it? You're going to do it again? Is it like 3 o'clock in the morning or something for you? You're going to set an alarm and get up super early to see her madge?
Look, it was very early, but I have to say it's got a special touch to it. It kind of warms your heart in a really, really interesting way. It's like the tradition of it. You know, you might as well put on the fireplace, make sure outside's cold, but, you know, there's no chance of that in Australia. It's always going to be above 35 degrees. No dramas with that. So, no, it was an interesting experience. And I think from an Australian's point of view, it's quite a bizarre phenomenon, but I can understand why families do love it at Christmas time.
Adam, it's fascinating. Do you know, I like the sound of an Aussie beach Christmas person. I'm not very winter-minded, nor am I particularly festive-minded, if I'm honest. So next year, let's make a date. I'm coming for prawns on the barbie.
Beautiful. I will cook up some prawns on the barbie. There'll be some nice steak, all around WA. In Perth, we've got some of the finest produce on offer. So you come down for Christmas and we'll have a great barbecue.
Yeah, just tell your bosses at the top to open the borders, right? Cheers, Adam.
Yeah, no, I'll let them know.
Alex is
thank
coming.
you.
Cheers, Adam. Well, time for a quick break and a little look at the weather forecast. And I'll tell you one thing, folks, it's probably not going to be 45 degrees.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Outbreaks of rain and hill snow will affect the far north of Scotland overnight, much milder elsewhere, and fairly foggy in places, whether that's hill fog or low-level fog by the start of Christmas Eve. You can see the mild air across much of the UK, but cold air continues in the far north of Scotland, and with these weather fronts bringing spells of rain from the southwest, well, they're going to increasingly mix with the cold air, and so the snow level coming down through the night across northern parts of Scotland. Expect accumulating snow above 300 metres, 2 to 5 centimetres possible, and 10 centimetres above 500 metres. So watch out if you're travelling on some of the higher routes in northern Scotland on Christmas Eve morning. Otherwise, some dense fog to look out for first thing across central parts of the UK, and a lot of cloud, low cloud covering the hills as well. Some damp weather there for northern England, much of Scotland, but it does peter out. Whilst another active band of rain moves in through the afternoon, southwest England into Wales, central southern England, Northern Ireland later on. That is accompanied by gusty winds. Mild air in the south, staying cold further north. And it's a repeating pattern over the next few days. We've got these active weather fronts moving in, and then they stall and fizzle out across central parts of the UK. They mix with the cold air further north, so don't be surprised if there's a few flakes of snow over the tops of the Pennines as we head into Christmas Day. But Christmas Day promises a cold start, a bright start across northern and central Scotland, some sunshine here. Further south, a lot of cloud, that cloud again covering the hills, and a few flakes of snow possible for the higher ground of northern England. But it's much milder for Wales, southern and southwest England, and here we'll see showers and longer spells of rain with temperatures up to 12 Celsius. Similar on Sunday, showers and mild air in the south, cold further north with some hill snow.
Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Are you ready for a great British Christmas? Well, we are, because from Christmas Eve till Boxing Day, 6 a.m. till 10 a.m, we're not coming out of your chimneys, we're coming out of your screens.
Absolutely. We might not all be able to see our families this year, but it doesn't matter because we are a GB News family and these shows are all about you.
They finally allowed us to co-present. I can't wait. You don't want to miss it.
Absolutely. Happy Christmas, everyone!
Happy Christmas! You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else. I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Join us for Political Correction. We're here every Sunday to correct politics and put you, the people, back in charge.
We talk about all areas of the United Kingdom, including Northern Ireland.
Our debate goes way beyond the Westminster Village. It's about the real country. It's about your opinion. So please, we want you to tell us what you think.
This is Political Correction.
Every Sunday morning from 10 a.m. here on GB News.
You're watching GB News live across the UK, the world, and our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We're here for you. Don't forget to join our community by hitting the subscribe button.
And download the GB News app so you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you. Email us at gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
Welcome back, and we are continuing our Christmas conversation with our final Magi, Linda Magistris, who set up the Good Grief Trust following the loss of her partner. They provide support to those processing grief. Linda, Christmas can actually be a really difficult time for some, can't it? When we're all getting back together with our families, there'll be people out there desperately missing loved ones.
This is one of the most difficult times of year. Yes, exactly what you're saying. But what we want to be able to let everyone know that there is help and that there is hope. The Good Grief Trust has over 800 support services. That's charities, helplines, whatever it is that you feel might be able to help you. We hopefully will be able to signpost you to via the website. So please do take a look. The pandemic has shone a light on the need to reach out to those people, particularly who have been perhaps isolated and alone in their grief at home. They haven't been able to say goodbye to those people who have died, sadly. They haven't been able to have the funerals that we all really so desperately needed. So please do reach out during this incredibly difficult time over the Christmas and the New Year period.
And if there are people watching the programme today who think, well, do you know what, that's me, I've lost loved ones and I'm potentially set to be spending Christmas Day alone, what would you advise them to do to sort of make sure that they have as much festive cheer as possible and have a happy day?
Well, it's up to that individual. I mean, grief is so unique. We say that basically grief is love with nowhere to go. So it's so incredibly difficult, particularly when you're alone and you feel isolated and you feel like there's nobody there for you. Please do look on all those social channels. We have an incredible support service. We have hundreds of people across the country who are all supporting each other. So just to give yourself a little bit of slack, actually. If you don't feel like being festive and cheerful, that's absolutely fine. It's okay to not be okay. If you feel like you literally just want to have a cup of tea and have a shower and watch a bit of TV, it's up to you. We are completely our own people as far as the grief feels and those emotions that can be a myriad, particularly in this incredibly challenging time across the holidays.
If there's one thing about the nature of the British is we're not always so proactive or bold about making the first move or extending an invitation and tend to think, well, you know, if they need me, they can ask. But if we do know of family or neighbours or friends who have lost a loved one this year or who might be facing Christmas alone, would you advise people to reach out and actually pick up the phone and say, do you want to come over for a bit of turkey?
Absolutely, but please do be prepared for the answer as well. So if somebody says no, that's absolutely fine, but try again, because grief can change on an hourly basis, on a daily basis. So if somebody says no for Christmas Day, maybe try them for Boxing Day or between Christmas and New Year. We can feel absolutely fine in the morning, and then when you're due to maybe go and see family and friends, you just have a meltdown, and perhaps you have a trigger. It could be opening the fridge and seeing that Christmas, turkey that you've shared with your husband or your wife, or perhaps a member of your family who's not with you. So please be prepared for that person to say no, but please keep trying. Reach out to them, send a WhatsApp, send a text, but perhaps don't expect to have a reply, but they would really, really appreciate you reaching out and knowing that they're not alone and that they're not feeling as though they're grieving in isolation. It's an incredibly lonely time.
And how important is it to hold on to traditional rituals and customs and moments you may have shared? Or perhaps how important is it to change those and revolutionise your Christmas?
Well, again, sadly, COVID and the pandemic has changed the way we grieve anyway. It's all completely up in the air. You know, we used to be able to reach out to family and friends and have those hugs and have people around, but everybody's very anxious. Even if you haven't experienced a bereavement, everybody feels very nervous about going out into the community. So perhaps, again, reach out on the telephone where you do feel quite safe. This Zoom situation is brilliant. You know, through the pandemic, we've connected online, which has been an incredible lifeline. The Good Grief Trust have virtual cafes throughout the whole of Christmas and New Year, where you can sit in your home, you can have a cup of coffee and share a mince pie in the safety of your own home. So please do reach out and have a look on all our websites. But as I said, we have over 800 support services and charities. There will be something for you. But as I say, this is a very unique time in all our lives, particularly for those people who have suffered a bereavement and feel as though there is nowhere to go. But there is help, and that there is hope, and there is a way forward with your life after a bereavement.
There you go. Thank you, Linda, ever so much. That's Linda Magistris from she's the founder, actually, of the Good Grief Trust. So if you are finding yourself perhaps alone this Christmas or trying to get over the loss of a loved one, get in touch with them. There's lots of people out there to help. Now, I want to know what your views are about Christmas. I know I've come across a bit grinchy, haven't I? It's all in the name of fun. Email me, gbviews@gbnews.uk. What are your little rituals and customs? You can also tweet me at GBNews. And we've been asking on Twitter in a poll, has Christmas lost its meaning? It is, of course, about the birth of Jesus, a name we haven't actually said much during this programme. So cast your vote, and I can find out what you, the nation, really thinks. But now it's time for the news headlines with Polly.
Your latest news headlines from GB News. 119,789 people have tested positive for COVID over the last 24-hour period. That's the highest level since the pandemic began. And it marks an increase of 13,000 from yesterday's daily record. Meanwhile, UK Health Secretary agency research appears to show that an individual with Omicron is up to 45% less likely to attend A&E and 70% less likely to be admitted into hospital. But overall, that may mean more individuals need hospitalisation because of the faster rate of transmission of Omicron. Scotland's Deputy First Minister says nightclubs will be closed in the country for at least 3 weeks from December the 27th. That comes on top of measures announced early this week by Nicola Sturgeon, which saw the return of additional restrictions, including the requirement for 1 metre social distancing and a maximum of 100 people standing at an indoor event. The measures are thought to impact 150 nightclubs across the country. Hundreds of mourners have paid their respects to a 12-year-old girl who was stabbed to death in Liverpool last month. Ava White was killed after a Christmas lights switch on in the city centre. Police said she died from catastrophic injuries. And Clarence House has confirmed the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall will spend Christmas Day with the Queen. Her Majesty will spend the festivities at Windsor Castle in Berkshire for a second year running and not travel to Sandringham in Norfolk, as is the usual tradition. Buckingham Palace has also announced that a service of thanksgiving for the life of the Duke of Edinburgh will take place next spring at Westminster Abbey. A full news update for you coming up in half an hour. Right now, back to Alex.
Thank you, Polly. Wow, there's lots more still to come in the last half an hour of the very last afternoon agenda, and it will be time to hear what you think about Christmas and has it lost its meaning? Do share with me your rituals, your customs, your feelings, your thoughts, your preparations. After this break, I'll see you shortly. You're watching GB News live across the UK and the world on our digital stream.
GB News is Britain's news channel.
We are the UK's home of discussion and debate from all perspectives.
We are here for you. Don't forget to join our YouTube community by clicking on that subscribe button.
And if you want the GB News app, you can click and catch up on programmes anytime.
We love to hear from you, so email us.
gbviews@gbnews.uk.
Thanks for being part of the GB News family.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Colin Brazier. I've reported from more than 70 countries around the world, covered wars from Afghanistan to Iraq, from Lebanon to the Balkans. I'm trying to bring that experience, that feel for events, to the studio. And something else, I'm ready to give an opinion. Today's stories with a spark. Brazier from 8 p.m. weekdays on GB News.
Welcome back to the last ever afternoon agenda. Yes, that's right. I'm about to slide down the schedule back towards the morning hours, where I will be hosting my new show between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock starting in the new year. So I'm not going anywhere, but this is the very last afternoon agenda. And of course today, what else are we talking about other than Christmas? Is there any other show in town? I'm asking if the festive season has lost its meaning, and lots of you have been sending in your views. William says, nice to hear Neil talking about Jesus' birth. The Bible actually has much more to say about his return. Our current leaders would do well to pay heed to what the Bible says. Yeah, couldn't disagree with that. Chunkin' Chops, that's a great name, Chunkin' Chops. I'm sure that's not on your birth certificate. About Christmas says it's actually a waste of time and energy. About time we scrapped it. If you want to go to church to celebrate Jesus as it's meant, please do. Other than that, bin it. Well, Chunk and Chops is our very own resident GB News Grinch, it seems. Grinchier than I. Luke says, in this increasingly fast-paced world, people don't seem to be taking the time to pause and properly organise a real family get-together or plan a real Christmas holiday, including some partaking in charity. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. We should all try and be a little bit more charitable during the festive period. Marie says, there's an offer you can't refuse, Alex. What's the offer I can't refuse? What's that? Loving Neil Oliver, spreading the Christmas spirit of love. Peace and joy. Merry Christmas all. I want to know what this offer is. Am I coming round your house? Let me know. I finish work at 9 o'clock. I'll be there, as long as it's not too far. Finally, James says, the Ministry of Propaganda is just as mean-minded as it ever was and using the Omicron in place of St Nick's stick for all of us naughty children. Oh, yes. Remember, Boris isn't the Messiah, is he not? He's just a very naughty boy. Love it. Well, today we are talking Christmas. The history, the sparkles, the baubles, and of course, the Xmas shopping. And I'm asking if along the way Christmas has lost its meaning. Well, talking of bargains, here's a man who we get him on a lot. He comes cheap, you know, and he's actually doing his Xmas shopping right now. It's our very own GB News regular, Calvin Robinson. Calvin, you're a committed Christian. How's the shopping, first of all? Did you get your gold, frankincense and myrrh?
Well, I'm actually out here doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, but I've just picked up 2 new jumpers for myself. So I'm not doing too well, actually, Ali.
I'm glad you got yourself presents. That is very Christian of you. Now, when it comes to Christmas, it seems like the last thing most people talk about, unless people are committed Christians, is Jesus. All the focus is on Santa and reindeers and, you know, all sorts of other sort of commercial nonsense. Does that kind of make you a bit sad every year? Or do you just think, well, the festive spirit's great, and as long as it gets people in the mood and brings the country together, then what harm can it do?
Well, the latter, really. You know, you can get a bit too Puritan about this. So, for example, it's not even Christmas yet. This is Advent. This is a time where we're supposed to be penitential. We're supposed to think ahead about getting ready for Christmas time. We're supposed to be peaceful, quiet, maybe fast a little bit, you know, like in Lent. We're not supposed to overindulge yet during the Advent season. It's the run-up to Christmas. And Christmas starts on Christmas Day, lasts for 12 days, much like the song tells you. But I don't get too upset about it or too Puritan about it, because I think as long as everyone's still remembering Christmas, you know, even if it is secular, it's about Santa Claus and giving presents to each other. Even then, we're giving gifts to each other. We're caring about each other. We're spending time with our loved ones, with our families. And yes, not everyone's thinking about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Not everyone's remembering that. But at least it's still an important part. Of our country. It's a part of our culture. It's a national celebration every year. In fact, it's probably the biggest, busiest time of year for a lot of people. It's bringing, you know, lots of customers to an industry that has suffered over the last 21 months and that kind of thing. So it's important for lots of reasons. But of course, for Christians, for myself, it's a strong reminder of the Christmas story, which is actually leading towards the Easter story of the death of our Lord and Savior for our sins. And I think that's something that's very special that we should all celebrate.
And do you find yourself in your own practice of Christmas sort of separating the two, the commercial, convivial, perhaps trivial side of Christmas and the more sort of religious, meaningful, pensive side of Christmas? Or does it just become one big melee of joy for you?
So I do set time aside. I'll go to midnight mass, and I'll go to mass on Christmas Day, and that's a nice quiet time of reflection, if I'm not serving, that is. So it's a time for prayer and penitence. But the rest of the season, it is very busy. It is very hectic. Like, I'm out here, you know, the day before Christmas Eve doing some last-minute Christmas shopping, or supposed to be. So it is full on. But I really don't mind that. Like I said, I think it's important that it's a part of our calendar that we've set aside to remind each other that we love each other. That's what we do at Christmas. We celebrate our love for one another. And that's what the Christian faith is all about. Love your neighbour as you love yourself, and love your God. That is all it's about. It's a faith of love. And Christmas is a time to remember us, or remind us rather, of that.
I think that, you know, we are a Christian country. People forget that. You know, the Queen is head of the church. We're a Church of England country. It's on the books. That's what we are. Yes, we live in a multicultural, multi-religious society. But do you think that, you know, the country's become a little bit too squeamish about approaching religion and talking about religion and talking about the national religion, and instead it sort of pivots back to season's greetings and happy holidays rather than actually, you know, saying the J word, Jesus?
Well, that's what I love about your show, Alex, because you're never afraid of using the J word. You talk about Christmas and these kind of things, but not everyone is happy to do that. Everyone is a bit shy and a bit coy about it these days. even as you walk around, in the neighborhood, in the community, back in the day, when I was young at least, we used to say, Merry Christmas, or have a good Christmas and a Happy New Year. Even then, even that kind of stuff we're afraid to say now. It's like, oh, happy holidays, have a good holiday, enjoy your time off. Just say Merry Christmas. You're not forcing your beliefs on anyone. You're not forcing people to be a Christian or to believe in God. All you're saying is, I believe that this time of year is important to me, and I hope it's important to you, and I'm wishing you a good Christmas time. There's nothing wrong with that. And what I find often is that people who find offense at the word Christmas or anything to do with Christianity, actually they're finding offense on behalf of other people. They say, oh, we don't want to offend people that aren't Christians. We can't offend the Muslims, the Sikhs, the Hindus. And if you speak to anyone that has faith, any different faith, actually, they tend to appreciate that we have faith of our own because they know what our values are. They know what we stand for. They know what we believe in. I've got many Muslim friends, for example, who wish me a Merry Christmas because they know that I believe in it. They know it's important to me. And when Eid comes around, I wish them a blessed, peaceful Eid as well. And that's how it should work. That's how inclusivity works. It's not about getting rid of our own to be more inclusive. That's exclusive. To be inclusive, we welcome people into our fold. That's how it should work.
I couldn't agree more. It's funny as well, actually, of all the major world religions, they all sort of you take them back far enough, and Jesus features in a lot of them. Calvin, always lovely talking to you and reminding us all that Christmas is, in fact, a Christian celebration, and we shouldn't be afraid to talk about that. Now,
Merry Christmas.
Do you think that you know your Douglas fir from your Norwegian spruce? Do you know your frankincense from your myrrh? Well, we may not have Boris presiding over this particular Christmas quiz, which is definitely not happening, of course. But we do have our very own witty quiz. See what I did there? To test your festive factoids. Well, joining us now is the nation's quizmaster, Jay Flynn, MBE, no less, who rose to fame during lockdown for his expertly crafted trivia nights. Jay, you're going to put us through our Christmas paces. Come on, hit me with it. I love a good quiz.
I've got 5 very festive questions for you. So, question number 1. What was traditionally put inside of Christmas puddings for luck?
Ooh, OK, you're going to give us the answers at the end, or do I have to tell the nation how idiotic I am first? Let's go on to question 2. Put inside Christmas pudding for luck. Writing it down.
Question 2. I love this question. Which country celebrates Christmas with KFC?
Oh, with KFC? Interesting. OK, OK. Right, question number 3. I hope you're all keeping your scores at home, people, as well, writing down your answers. No cheating. Cheating is bad for the soul. Hit me with number 3.
Number 3. Who denied X Factor contestants a 5th consecutive Christmas number 1 in 2009? A well-crafted social media campaign.
Oh, I'm straining my brain to remember that. OK, I've got an idea. Question 4.
Number 4. Nakatomi Plaza is the central location to which film set at Christmas?
Your what plaza?
Nakatomi
Plaza, and a film set at Christmas?
Yeah.
OK.
A lot of people call it a Christmas film. I'm still on the fence.
Oh, is it one of those? It's OK. So is it set at Christmas or is it played at Christmas? Or am I not allowed to ask clues?
Well, no. A lot of people call it a Christmas film. I dispute whether it's a Christmas film, but because it's set at Christmas, everyone says it's a Christmas film. But you can watch it all year round.
OK.
That's confused everyone.
And finally.
Number 5. Widow Twankey is the mother of which pantomime character?
Oh, gosh. I'm not going to do well on this, you know. OK, right. Should we work through these answers then? I'm going to put myself to shame. Please be kind. Right, question 1. Remind us.
It's all for fun. It doesn't matter how you get on. Number 1.
It's not fun when you're doing it in front of the nation, looking like a fool. Carry on.
Yeah, it's a good point. Number 1, what was traditionally put inside of Christmas puddings for luck? It's a 6pence. If you put money, I'll give you that. It's fine.
I put coin, right? Tick. 1 point to Alex.
You can have that.
OK, number 2.
Number 2, which country celebrates Christmas with KFC? It's Japan.
Oh, do you know what? I put Indonesia. I don't know why. I took a punt on, that neck of the woods. Japan. Why? That's strange.
It's their Christmas tradition. They go to KFC on Christmas Day.
OK. That's just as Jesus intended. Now, question number 3.
Number 3, who denied X Factor contestants a 5th consecutive Christmas #1 in 2009? It was Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, I knew it was some sort of like grotesque metal band with angry stuff, and I put Metallica, and I don't even know what they sound like, and they're probably not even metal, and people are going to send in angry emails now. But there you are. If you got that, you've got a better memory than me. Rage Against the Machine. And, OK, Nakatomi Plaza.
Yeah, it's the central location to Die Hard.
Yes! Do you know what? It was your clue. It's your son. People say it's a Christmas film, and there's too much of that all over Twitter. It's like pineapple on pizza. It's an ongoing debate. Die Hard, there you go, folks. If you got that, give yourself a glorious Christmas point. And the final one, Widow Twankey is the mother of...
Aladdin.
Aladdin? Oh, is she? Doesn't seem like a very... very Aladdin-ish sort of name, does it? The mother of Aladdin. Who's that other little character that she knocks about with? That little feeble geezer?
Would that be Wishy Washy, which is Aladdin?
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I didn't know his name. I just put feeble geezer in my notepad. Oh, well, there you are. Now, what are your Christmas plans? Are you going to be quizzing the nation on Christmas Day? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm live again tonight as normal on YouTube, Jay's virtual pub quiz for kickoff at 8 o'clock tonight. I've pre-recorded a Christmas quiz, and I've had so many people saying they're really pleased because they want to play it with their families during the day. So that's going to be available from 9 o'clock in the morning on Christmas Day, so people can play it whenever they want. And at the moment, it's looking likely that the things are going to change next week. So if they do, I'm going to do what I did last year, and I'm going to go live again on New Year's Eve with a quiz that takes us through, so we can all share the new year together as a big collective quiz group.
Oh, that's what we like, a collective quiz group. There's nothing like a bit of trivia to diffuse a tense situation around the Christmas dinner table. Thank you ever so much for quizzing the nation and exposing my ignorance. Jay Flynn, MBE, the nation's quizmaster. Now, keeping with the wintry theme, although COVID restrictions mean that some sports are limited across Scotland, one is thriving. Oh yes, skiers and skiboarders are flocking to the Cairngorms. Snowboarders, someone's written skiboarders in the auto queue, and there I was like Pavlov's dog, just doing whatever I'm told to. But anyway, skiers and snowboarders are flocking to the Cairngorms to enjoy the snow and the outdoors. Our wonderful Scottish reporter Davy Donaldson has more.
It's a long, winding climb up to the highest ski resort in the Cairngorms. On the 8-mile trek from Aviemore, you'll pass stunning scenery and tourist attractions such as Loch Morlich, reindeer and much more. And this year, those at the ski resort are hoping for a good season with plenty of snow.
This year, we don't know if, with the pandemic, the variations, the changes, are people going abroad, are they cancelling their holidays? We expect to be very busy over Christmas and New Year. The challenge will be having enough snow to manage people's expectations. So there might be a period we might have to restrict numbers on the mountain compared to much snow we've got, but keep an eye on the forecast, we play it by ear and hopefully accommodate as many as we can safely, but also keep in our mind that a lot of people want to come here to ski and we need more natural snow to get more of the mountain open.
There are 32 kilometres of slopes and 35 different runs within the ski area. The Cairngorms National Park is home to 3 of Scotland's 5 ski centres, which attracts visitors from far and wide.
Very different from the Alps, in as much as this is very rolling, gentle scenery, but it's beautiful. And yes, it is impressive. I didn't expect it to be as high. That sounds a bit silly.
A new snow factory at the Cairngorm Mountain provides skiing for all levels of experience. It will also help provide access from the lower slopes to the mid-station for the upper lifts.
The Techno-Alpine Snow Factory there produces snow at any temperature, so it's been on for the last month, pumping out big mounds of snow, and our piece machines will smooth all that out before opening day to create a beginning area for ski schools and beginners. So if that's all we've got for the opening day, we'll probably reach our numbers quite quickly, so we just have to hope for more natural snow to come so we get more skiing available. This summer actually we've been very busy. We have a kids play park down here we open in the summer with a tubing slide and a little zip slide. That's been exceptionally busy. Many people come to see that and spend in the cafes and restaurants, so we've had a good busy summer, so hopefully we can continue that through the winter.
The summer was clearly a huge success and it's hopeful this will continue throughout the season.
Well, there we are. All you lucky people who are keen skiers in the north of Hadrian's Wall, you've got a lot of fun to look forward to, even if Sturgeon's trying to make it a miserable Christmas. Now, let's see what you, the viewer, has to say about Christmas. Lots of you have been getting in touch, as always. Now, one viewer says, Mr. Christmas, do you remember him, first hour of the show? Yeah, he's not going to stop for anybody. I think he probably should, potentially for his own waistline and health at some point, and his electricity bill. Finally, James says, the Ministry of Propaganda is just as mean-minded as it ever was and is using Omicron in place of St Nick's stick for all of us naughty children. Remember, Boris isn't the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy. Love that one. Now, earlier, we asked you, has Christmas lost its meaning? And 41% of you say, no, it hasn't. But alas, the majority, 59%, think it has. Well, do you know what? There we have it. Have a good one anyway. Jesus or no Jesus, presents or no presents, capon, turkey, hog roast, some sort of strange nut thing for vegans. Do you, and have a wonderful time with your family. You've been watching the very last afternoon agenda with me, Alex Phillips. It's been epic. I've loved your company for the last few months. I'm going to be back tomorrow, believe it or not, but in a slightly different slot because young Alex is taking herself off home to tuck herself up to bed for a morning alarm around 3 o'clock or something pretty hideous, because I'm going to be your little cheerful GB News Christmas elf with the wonderful Patrick Christie's for the breakfast shift. That will be from 6 a.m. till about 9:30, something like that. Tomorrow, Christmas Day and Boxing Day. So if you're up as well to wrap presents, boil giblets, light candles or generally hit the bottle, make sure you join us. We'll keep you company and let's all have a good time. That's it for me for tonight. Bye-bye.
It's time to remind ourselves there's always another winter. Canary Islands sponsors the weather.
Hello again. Outbreaks of rain and hill snow will affect the far north of Scotland overnight, much milder elsewhere and fairly foggy in places, whether that's hill fog or low-level fog by the start of Christmas Eve. You can see the mild air across much of the UK, but cold air continues in the far north of Scotland, and with these weather fronts bringing spells of rain from the southwest, well, they're going to increasingly mix with the cold air, and so the snow level coming down through the night across northern parts of Scotland. Expect accumulating snow above 300 metres, 2 to 5 centimetres possible, and 10 centimetres above 500 metres. So watch out if you're travelling on some of the higher routes in northern Scotland on Christmas Eve morning. Otherwise, some dense fog to look out for first thing across central parts of the UK, and a lot of cloud, low cloud covering the hills as well. Some damp weather there for northern England, much of Scotland, but it does peter out. Whilst another active band of rain moves in through the afternoon, southwest England into Wales, central southern England.